Not today, maybe tomorrow. That's what Arjun whispered every night as he lay in bed staring at the ceiling. He was a 27-year-old man with big dreams, dreams of building his own business, becoming financially free, traveling the world, and living a life that mattered. But every time those dreams knocked on the door of his mind, excuses opened it instead. Some days it was, I don't have enough money to start. Other days, I don't know the right people. And often, what if I fail? What if everyone laughs at me? These excuses became his lullabies. They helped him sleep but kept him stuck in the same life, a small rented room, a job he hated, and a future that looked exactly like his past. But one evening, something unexpected shook him. Arjun was lazily flipping through TV channels when he saw a familiar face. Samir, his childhood friend, was on a business talk show. Samir had grown up in the same dusty streets, studied in the same broken school, and faced the same struggles. Yet, there he was, smiling confidently, sharing how he built a startup that was now worth millions. Arjun froze. His heart started pounding. His eyes widened as if someone had slapped him awake. He whispered to himself, Samir? The Samir who used to borrow my books because he couldn't afford his own? The Samir who had nothing more than I did? How did he do it, and why didn't I? That night, Arjun couldn't sleep. His excuses, the ones that once felt so comforting, now felt like poison. For the first time, he saw them for what they really were, not shields protecting him, but shackles binding him. He remembered the countless evenings he had wasted scrolling social media, telling himself he'd start tomorrow. He remembered the mornings when he hit the snooze button instead of hitting the gym. He remembered all the brilliant ideas he had scribbled in his notebook but never acted on. And now, seeing Samir's success, it hit him like a storm. It's not the world that stopped me. It's not my family, my city, or my situation. It's me. It's my excuses. They are the real enemy. Tears filled his eyes, not of jealousy, but of realization. That night, Arjun stood in front of his mirror. His reflection looked tired, older than his years, but also desperate, desperate for change. He clenched his fists and whispered, almost like a vow. Enough. I will not let excuses run my life anymore. If Samir could rise from the same soil as me, then I can too. No more lies. No more delays. No more excuses. For the first time in years, he felt something he thought he had lost, hope. It was the wake-up call he needed. A reminder that excuses don't protect your dreams, they murder them silently, one day at a time. And that night, Arjun decided, he would no longer be the victim of his excuses. He would kill them before they killed him. Imagine carrying a heavy bag every single day of your life. You can't see it, others can't see it, but you feel it on your shoulders, dragging you down, making every step harder than it should be. That invisible bag was what Arjun had been carrying for years. And inside it, there wasn't gold, success, or opportunity. No. Inside it were stones, each one carved with the words of his excuses. One stone said, I don't have time. Another said, I don't know enough. Another, heavier than the rest, said, people will laugh if I fail. And the sharpest one of all said, maybe success is not for people like me. Every time Arjun wanted to run toward a goal, these stones pulled him back. They didn't just stop him from moving forward, they crushed his confidence, his energy, his spirit. One rainy evening, while sitting in his dimly lit room, he pulled out a notebook. For the first time in his life, he decided to face his excuses head-on. He wrote at the top of the page, why am I not where I want to be? And then he began to list them, one by one. I don't have money. I don't have contacts. I'm scared of failing. I'm not smart enough. I'm too tired after work. I'll start when I have more free time. I'm not confident like others. By the time he stopped writing, the list was 3 full pages long. 3 pages of reasons that had shaped his entire life. As he stared at the pages, something inside him broke. He realized that he had spent more energy building excuses than building his dreams. He had invested hours convincing himself why he couldn't do something, instead of trying to figure out how he could. It felt like someone had ripped open the heavy bag he had been carrying, and all the stones fell on the floor in front of him. He could finally see them. And they were ugly, cold, and meaningless. Arjun whispered to himself, his voice shaking. These excuses are not protecting me, they're destroying me. Every excuse is like a thief stealing one piece of my future. And I have been the one letting them in. He remembered his friend Samir again. They had the same struggles, yet Samir chose action while he chose excuses. The difference between them wasn't luck, money, or connections. It was that Samir had dropped the heavy bag, while Arjun kept carrying it. Arjun looked at the list again. And then he did something symbolic. He took a pen and crossed out every single excuse, one by one, with bold black lines. With each strike, he felt lighter, as if he was cutting off chains that had kept him prisoner for years. When he finished, he held the notebook close to his chest and said out loud, "If I don't kill my excuses now, they will kill me slowly. They will kill my dreams, my happiness, my future. I have wasted too many years hiding behind them. No more." That night, as he went to sleep, Arjun didn't feel defeated like usual. For the first time, he felt strong. Because now he knew the enemy. And when you know your enemy, you can fight it. The heavy bag of excuses was still there, but he had taken the first step, opening it and exposing what was inside. And deep down, he promised himself that step by step, stone by stone, he would empty it, forever. The morning after Arjun crossed out his excuses, he woke up to his alarm at 6 a.m. Normally, he would have hit snooze, pulled the blanket tighter, and promised himself, tomorrow. But that day felt different. He sat up, rubbed his eyes, and stared at the ceiling. The war had begun, the war between his old self, full of excuses, and the new self that wanted freedom. His mind whispered, "You're too tired. Sleep a little more." But his heart shouted louder, "Didn't you say no more excuses? Prove it now." So he got up. His first decision of the day wasn't extraordinary, it was simply refusing the snooze button. But sometimes the smallest victories are the start of the biggest battles. Arjun laced up his old sneakers, the same pair he hadn't touched in months, and stepped outside. The air was cold, and the streets were quiet except for the chirping of birds. He started jogging slowly. Within minutes, his lungs burned, his legs ached, and the familiar excuse came rushing back, "You're not fit for this. Go home. Do it tomorrow." But he kept moving, one step, then another, repeating to himself like a mantra. No excuses. Not today. Not ever again. By the time he returned home, sweat dripping down his forehead, he wasn't just proud of finishing a run, he was proud of silencing his excuses, even for one morning. Later that day, while sipping tea, another old thought returned, "You want to start a business, but you don't know how. You're not ready." Instead of letting the excuse win, Arjun opened his laptop and searched for free online courses about entrepreneurship. He found one, signed up immediately, and took notes as if his life depended on it. The lessons weren't easy. There were terms he didn't understand, strategies he had never heard of, and concepts that felt overwhelming. The old Arjun would have closed the tab and said, "I'll learn later." But the new Arjun leaned in and whispered to himself, "Later is the excuse I've killed. The only time is now." That evening, as he walked to a nearby tea stall, he met 2 old friends. They joked, laughed, and talked about work. One of them teased him, "Arjun, you still stuck in that same job? You always talk about starting something but never do it." The word stung. Normally, he would laugh it off or make another excuse, yeah, I don't have enough money. But this time he looked them in the eye and said firmly, I've started learning. I'm working on it now. His friends went silent for a moment, surprised. Then one of them clapped his back and said, good, man. It's about time. That little conversation gave Arjun something he had been missing, encouragement. He realized something powerful: people respect action, not excuses. Over the next few weeks, Arjun kept building these small victories. He stopped saying, I don't have time to read. Instead, he read for 20 minutes before bed. He stopped saying, I don't know the right people. Instead, he joined an online group of entrepreneurs and introduced himself. He stopped saying, what if I fail? Instead, he started thinking, what if I succeed? Every time he killed one excuse, he felt like another stone was lifted from his heavy bag. The load became lighter. His steps became faster. But the greatest change wasn't outside, it was inside. He began to believe. He started to see himself not as a victim of circumstances but as the creator of his future. One evening, while writing in his journal, he paused and looked at the page. On top, he wrote, the magic isn't in doing extraordinary things. The magic is in refusing to let excuses win. And for the first time, he truly believed it. The road ahead was still long. He wasn't rich yet, he wasn't successful yet, and he hadn't achieved his dreams yet. But he had done something even more important: he had taken the first steps without excuses. And those first steps, though small, had already changed the direction of his life forever. Success is never handed to anyone, it must be earned through fire, failure, and persistence. And for Arjun, the fire came sooner than expected. After weeks of discipline, running in the mornings, studying entrepreneurship, and networking online, he finally put together a rough business plan. It wasn't perfect, but it was his first real attempt to turn a dream into reality. He felt nervous yet excited, like a soldier stepping onto the battlefield for the first time. One afternoon, with sweaty palms and a racing heart, Arjun sat across from an investor in a small office. The investor skimmed through his plan, frowning. Arjun explained his idea passionately, his voice trembling but determined. When he finished, the investor leaned back in his chair, sighed, and said bluntly, "This won't work. You don't have enough experience. You're not ready. Come back when you're serious." The words hit Arjun like a bullet. For a moment, his chest tightened, and he felt the old excuses rushing back like an army. "See? You're not good enough. This is why you should have stayed safe. You're wasting your time. You'll never make it." He left the office with his shoulders heavy and his mind full of doubt. That evening, he sat on his bed staring at the same old notebook where he had once crossed out his excuses. The temptation to pick them up again was overwhelming. The thought of quitting whispered in his ear like a sweet lullaby. But then he stood up, looked into the mirror, and said firmly, "No. Failure is not my excuse. Failure is my feedback. If Samir could rise, if thousands of others could rise, then why not me? I will not crawl back into the cage I escaped from." He opened his laptop again. This time, instead of crying over rejection, he analyzed the investor's criticism. Not enough experience. Fine, he would gain experience. Not ready. Fine, he would prepare harder. Every negative word became fuel for his determination. The next day, Arjun returned to work. He restructured his plan, studied more case studies, reached out to mentors in online forums, and learned from their advice. He refined his pitch, practiced in front of a mirror, and even recorded himself to spot weaknesses. Each night, while others slept, he worked under the dim glow of his desk lamp. Weeks turned into months. Finally, with a stronger plan in hand, he met another investor. This time, Arjun spoke with more confidence. He didn't beg, he presented. He didn't tremble, he stood firm. He didn't hide from tough questions, he answered them with clarity. The investor didn't immediately say yes, but he saw potential. "I can't promise much," the investor said, "but I'll give you a small chance. Let's see what you can do." It wasn't a huge breakthrough. It wasn't millions in funding. But it was a door. A door that would never have opened if Arjun had let his excuses win after the first rejection. That night, Arjun sat on his rooftop, looking at the stars. His chest rose with pride, not because he had succeeded yet, but because he had survived the test of fire. He whispered into the night. "Excuses are easy. Action is hard. But only action creates change. Today I fought the hardest battle, not against the world, but against myself. And I won." The fire had tried to burn him, but instead, it forged him. Arjun wasn't the same man anymore. He was stronger, sharper, and hungrier. And he knew, this was only the beginning. Years rolled by, and Arjun's life no longer looked anything like the man who once lived trapped in excuses. His mornings were disciplined, his evenings productive, and his vision sharper than ever. The small chance that one investor gave him grew into a thriving business. It wasn't overnight magic, it was years of sweat, rejection, and relentless effort. But the difference was clear: every time an excuse tried to creep in, Arjun killed it before it could take root. Now he stood on a grand stage, lights shining down, the sound of hundreds of people waiting for him to speak. His heart raced, but not from fear, from gratitude. He looked at the audience, students, entrepreneurs, dreamers, ordinary people hungry for change, and saw himself in their eyes. He began with a simple sentence. "Excuses are lies we tell ourselves to feel safe. But safety doesn't build dreams, it buries them." The hall went silent. He shared his story. Not to boast, but to prove that success wasn't about being born lucky or rich. It was about courage, persistence, and the willingness to fight your excuses every single day. He told them about the nights when he almost gave up. About the rejections that made him doubt his worth. About the countless times the voice in his head whispered, "You can't." And how, every time, he whispered back louder, "Watch me." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. Then he said, "If I had listened to my excuses, I would still be in that tiny rented room, scrolling my phone, dreaming but never doing. I would still be broke, lost, invisible. But I chose differently. I chose to kill my excuses before they killed me. And that choice changed everything." A young man in the audience raised his hand and asked, "But what if I fail? What if I try and people laugh at me?" Arjun smiled, because he knew that question well. It was the same one he used to ask himself. "Listen," he said, "failure is not the enemy. Excuses are. Failure will teach you, shape you, and push you forward. Excuses will keep you frozen, stuck in the same place forever. People may laugh at your attempts, but one day they will applaud your courage. Don't let the fear of laughter be louder than the call of your dreams." The crowd erupted in applause. Some clapped, some shouted, some even wiped tears from their eyes. But more than the noise, Arjun could feel something deeper, a spark. A spark of realization, the same one he had felt years ago when he saw Samir on TV. A spark that could change lives. As the session ended, Arjun left them with one final challenge. The next time you say, "I can't because," stop. Catch yourself. Tear that excuse apart. Replace it with, "I will, no matter what." Because your excuses will always be ready to destroy your future. But if you destroy them first, nothing can stop you. Remember this: kill your excuse, and you save your life. The audience gave him a standing ovation. But in his heart, Arjun wasn't celebrating applause, he was celebrating freedom. Freedom from the invisible bag, freedom from the chains of, someday, freedom from the lies he once told himself. On his way home, he looked at the city lights glowing in the distance. He smiled, because he knew his journey wasn't just about him anymore. It was about everyone who heard his story, everyone who carried their own heavy bag of excuses, everyone who needed to believe again. And deep inside, he whispered one last time. No excuses. Only action. Only life.